Hello, and welcome aboard the USS Voyager. My name is Bracken, and I'm here to acquaint you with your ship and your role as the sensors and probe technicians aboard this vessel. Typically, there are two of you officers serving at the sensors and probe stations on the bridge, so I will be referring to you in the plural, whether or not there are two of you throughout this training. Your job and responsibilities make you the eyes of the ship. It is your job to find out as much as you can about what's going on around us and keep the captain informed. You will receive vital information throughout the mission that needs to be shared with the rest of the officers serving on the bridge with you, as well as launching probe networks to help us keep in contact with Terran Space Command and/or extend how far we can see using the sensors. You are assigned to the bridge because you are one of the best and brightest, and your captain trusts you. The bridge is located on Deck 12, in the very core of the ship. Your job is vital to the success of your mission, and I want to train you to be the very best. As I go through this training, please follow along with the instructions I give you. If there are two of you, each of you have your own computer. Follow along with everything that I say to follow along with, whether it's at your computer or not. You both need to learn both stations. If you're alone, you definitely need to learn both stations, but if there are two of you, you may need to learn the other station just in case the worst should happen and your partner is incapacitated. It is very important that you listen to what I'm teaching you so that when the time comes, you can accomplish your tasks without my help. So as I ask you to click, type, or do, follow along exactly so that you can see these important effects as we go through your training. And if you ever start to fall behind, you can pause this training at any time so that you can catch up to what I'm talking about. As we move through, there will be several times that I ask you to type in information. If you need extra time to type anything in, please pause this training so that you do not get lost as I move ahead. I'm going to repeat that one more time so you understand how important it is. If you need extra time to type anything in when you're told to type, immediately pause your training so that you don't get lost when I move on. When you're finished typing, you can then press play so that your training resumes. A couple more things I want to cover before we get started. A field is a box where you can type information in. You may already have known that, but it is important that you understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a field. Anytime I'm talking about a field, I am talking about the blank space where you can type in a box on your screen. Also, if at any time you need help during this training, or you feel undeniably confused and cannot figure out what's going on by yourself, you should pause your training and then raise your hand, and one of our staff members will come to assist you. Do not forget to pause before you raise your hand. Now that we've got those basics out of the way, the very first thing we need to do is log into your station to gain access. In order to do that, we need to go to the bottom right corner of your screen and enter your name where it says Officer Login, and type your name into the empty field there. If there are two of you, log in to your respective computers. If it's just one of you, log in to both. This is the last time I'll mention this, but if you need extra time to type, please pause your training and enter your name, and restart when you're done. Now that your name is typed in, simply click the Login button directly below the field. This will give you access to the station. Before we do anything else, let's take a look at the widgets across the top center of your screen. If there are two of you, both of you can do this on your respective computers at the same time. If it's just one of you, pick which computer you want to start with. These widgets were designed to make yours and everyone else's job easier. The very first widget looks like a pink square with a pencil. If you hover over it, the words Long Range Message Composer appear, telling you what the widget is. This widget will allow us to craft and send a long-range message. Let's go ahead and do that now. Click on the Long Range Message Composer widget if you haven't already. A box will appear. At the top, you'll notice that once again we have the name of the widget, Long Range Message Composer. And then we have an empty to field and an empty body field. Long-range messages are similar to email. Because Voyager is often sent off into the vast darkness of space, she needed a way for her crew to transmit messages to Terran Space Command and also their families. it can get quite lonely out in the middle of space. This widget is available on every computer in the ship and allows any crew member to send any messages to anyone as long as they have the right address. We're going to send a long-range message to Terran Space Command, so go ahead and type that into the To field. Then, in the body of the message, type in "This is a test." Don't worry too much about spelling because the computer can fix that automatically after the message is sent in most cases. Now that we have our message typed, all we need to do is click Q for sending, which is right below the field you typed "This is a test" into. Once you've clicked that, your message is going to the review stage and will be sent if it's approved. The counterintelligence officer or officers review all outgoing communications to ensure that no sensitive information is being sent. The next widget is the calculator widget. It's right next to the long-range message composer. Go ahead and click on that to pull that up. If you ever need a calculator to quickly perform any math function, you can pull this calculator up. Go ahead and click the close button to exit now. Next to the calculator is your objectives widget. Go ahead and click on it. This will allow you to see your mission objectives as you progress throughout your mission. You'll notice there is nothing in there right now. That's because we are in training. You can check this, however, during your mission. Go ahead and click the close button to exit now. Next is the officer's log. The officer's log is a great place to take notes of happenings in your mission, or keep a journal of things that have happened, or that you've been told so that you can remember them in critical situations. One of my heroes, Quincy Lewis, taught me at an early age that if you don't write it down, you won't remember it when you need it. Not only is that true on your mission today, but is a great take-home lesson. Writing things down activates multiple centers of your brain and causes the memory to be recalled more effectively than when it's just heard. Use this to keep track of the various aspects of your mission. To enter something into the log, simply click the Start Log button. This will open a field on the right side of the window. If you click in the empty field, you can now type. Because we're in training, the log will be reset, so we're not going to type anything too exciting here. Just type in "We are in training" and then click Save. Once you click Save, you'll notice how the log appears on the left-hand side. As you add entries, you'll be able to go back through and see any entry you've created. Use this throughout your mission to guarantee your success. You may now close that window. The next widget is the messaging widget. This allows you to instantly message anyone on the bridge and occasionally people on other decks depending on what you're doing at your station. For now, I just want to teach you how to use this. It is important to note that this isn't a toy. This is critical for mission success. It's for critical mission information only. Its purpose is to allow nonverbal communication to other crew members so that it stays relatively quiet on the bridge. This will allow the captain to hear everything that's going on, instead of the bridge becoming littered with side conversations that are distracting and make it difficult to hear things. It will also allow you to work quickly and efficiently on what you are doing without having to get up and run between stations. Let's send a message right now to the Command Monitor station. To do this, click New Message. Once you've done this, find Command Monitor in the list. Once you've found it, click on it, and you'll notice on the right-hand side where it says Messages, it now says Conversation with Command Monitor. Now all you have to do is type a message in the empty field next to where it says Send Message. The message we'll type right now is going to once again say, "This is a test." Once you have that typed in, go ahead and hit the Send Message button. When you do, you will see that it says your station name and then your message. Make sure you check back after you've sent a message to see if you've received a response. If and when they respond, it will show their station name and the message. You may now close out of this screen by clicking the Close button. The next widget is the Training widget. If ever in the middle of your mission you feel like you don't remember how to do something, clicking on that widget will help you understand what's going on a specific screen. It will give you a refresher course on how the various aspects of that screen work. You may close out of this, if you clicked it, by selecting the X in the top left corner. The last widget is the logout widget. You should only log out of your station if you feel like the bridge is going to be taken over and don't want the enemy to have access to your computer. Now that we've explored the widgets, let's take a look at the technology you control at the sensors and probe stations themselves. We will start with the sensors array station. If you move your mouse to the left of the screen, where there are several buttons, you'll notice that when you hover over a button, words appear next to these buttons. This tells you which screens you have access to on a given computer. Right now, select the button that says Sensors Array. The Sensors Array is the ship's eyes, and it is your job to keep the crew informed as to what's going on outside. We are the very center of the array. The Sensors Array allows us to see anything around us for about 100,000 kilometers. Our long-range sensors can pick up subspace disturbances and high-energy outputs at about 30 times that distance, which is roughly 3 million kilometers. Our sensors use a combination of motion scans, metallurgical scans, frequency scans, and technological scans to locate and detect objects and orient them where they are in relation to the ship. There are plenty of weaknesses someone with the know-how could exploit to get around our sensors, but without insider knowledge, it would be nearly impossible to negate all of the varying scanning and sensing equipment we have aboard. If you look at your array, you'll notice it has 12 equal sections, similar to a clock. An object directly ahead of us would be at 12 o'clock, and an object to our rear would be at 6 o'clock. When informing the captain, you should give directional indicators like, "Captain, the USS Washington is approaching at 2 o'clock, sir." Right now, you'll notice a contact at 1 o'clock. Contacts are represented by symbols on our array. These symbols are meant to help us identify contacts. If you want more information about a contact, simply click on the contact, and it will show you what the contact looks like and what the contact's name is. If you click on it, a blue highlight box will appear around the contact, and then you will see a picture and a name showing on the right-hand side of the screen. Go ahead and click on the contact now. This contact is a training contact. You may also note that there is occasionally a white dot representing incoming weapons leaving from the contact and impacting our ship. This is part of training and is meant to help the tactical officers learn their jobs. However, this is what it would look like if we were under attack. It would be a good idea to let the captain know of any incoming weapons. You'll also note on this screen the area called Processed Data. Right now it should say, "Information presented here is deemed important by Meredith," your artificial intelligence unit, and should be read aloud to the bridge crew immediately. When this information is relayed to you, you'll hear this sound. Anytime you hear that sound, it means more information is here in the processed data field. When that happens, you should immediately turn around, raise your hand, and say, "Captain," in a very loud and commanding voice. Not screeching, not yelling, just commanding. When the captain calls on you, you should read this information loud enough for everyone on the bridge to hear. This information is vital to the success of your mission. Very lastly on this screen, if you hit the Show Weapon Range button, it will highlight in red how far out our weapons will be effective against an enemy vessel, asteroids, etc. This can be changed based on how much power is in the targeting system and the efficiency of our weapon systems at any given time. Now take your mouse back over to the left side of the screen and select your external scan screen. From here, you can run scans to gather information from what's around you. For instance, right now we know that we have a ship at 1 o'clock. Let's see how many life forms are on that ship. In order to start a scan, click the New Scan button. Now you can type what you want to scan for into the Scan Input field. Let's type in life forms into that field. Don't stress too much about spelling. The computer can correct your spelling as it goes through. Once you have that typed in, and before we start the scan, take a look at the right-hand side of this screen where it says Scan Type. You'll notice our scanners can search in various modes. Standard is an unfocused scan that looks for pieces of all of the various modes. Organic searches specifically for life forms and similar organic material, things that are alive. Inorganic scans scan for non-living material specifically. Infrared scanners see heat, which can help see a vessel that has a stealth field active and is hiding from standard scans, but is giving off heat from its engines or weapon systems, but would only be detectable by the infrared scanners. And lastly, subspace scanners are required to perform any scans if we are currently in hyperspace and the jump drive is active. Now that we have a basic understanding of what the scanners can do, let's initiate our scan by pressing Begin Scan. You'll notice that this scan shows up in the scan log. When the scan is answered, life forms, what we're scanning for, will turn green. When it turns green, click on it, and you'll be able to see the results which show none detected. That means that the ship that we saw earlier at 1 o'clock, in this instance, has no detectable life forms aboard. This information could be helpful. We could figure out perhaps the ship is remotely controlled and trace it back to the control location. You can use the scanners to scan for anything outside of the ship and gather almost any information that you can dream of. You don't have to be all formal in your scans either. You can ask simple questions like, what's aboard that ship? Or what type of weapons does that ship have? Gathering this information can help you defend your ship better, as well as help you gather information throughout your mission to help you be successful. A great thing to scan for in battle is the frequency of the incoming weapons. If you tell your operations officer the frequency, they can adjust the shields to match the incoming weapons, and it will heavily dampen the effect of the weapons attacking our vessel. This can save our life. There are plenty of other options that you can use the scanners to help with. Continue to be creative and find ways to help your crew using the scanners. Now let's switch gears and take a look at the probe control system. If for some reason you haven't already logged in, do so now. If you move your mouse on that computer to the left-hand side and select Probe Construction, we can get started. Our ship carries 5 different classes of probes. Class 1 probes are simple in design, but aren't very durable. Class 2 probes are generally used for nebulas and moving into a planet's atmosphere. Class 3 probes are the most durable and can withstand the corona of a star for around 20 minutes, gathering data and transmitting that information to us, allowing us to gather information on hostile environments and terrain we couldn't otherwise gather. Defensive probes have capabilities to help our ship in battle, and science probes allow us to extend our sensors range and perform scientific experiments. Right now, you see we only have a few of each set of probes, but we do have a probe manufacturing plant aboard Voyager and can fabricate more if needed. Generally, we can set up a large probe network in an area to help us get a bird's eye view of what's around us. This is greatly effective, especially when we're operating in an area for a long period of time. Let's use the Earth solar system as an example. If Voyager was in orbit of Earth, our standard sensors could see about halfway to the Moon, and our long-range sensors could see about 18% of the distance from Earth to Mars. But with a probe network, our sensors would be greatly enhanced and could see, if properly utilized, the entire solar system. Voyager's sensors are limited because of how much power is being given off by the ship itself. A concentrated amount of energy makes the sensors hazy, and so they have to be finely tuned to see the distance we can currently see. However, sensors arrays inside of probes function incredibly better and give a greater view than sensors aboard a massive starship. This is why probes are so important. Let's build a simple Class 1 probe right now and begin our probe network. To start, click on the Class 1 probe. Each classification of probe can carry a certain amount of equipment. To make this easier on everyone, we simply call it space. The Class 1 probe has a total of 4 space. You can see this in the top right corner. The available equipment shows what equipment can be loaded into the probe, and its size determines how much space it takes. For instance, the probe network package takes 1 available space, whereas the encoding sequencer takes 2 space. Let's add a sensors array and a probe network package to this probe by clicking on those pieces of equipment. Now that we have those in the loaded equipment section, we can push the Prepare Probe button. In a standard probe network, there are 8 spots in a very wide circle that we can send the probes to. The probes have enough energy to use a small jump drive that allows them to get into position quickly. That way we aren't waiting for months for a probe to get out to its location and start transmitting information. We are going to send this first probe to destination 1. Go ahead and click on the 1 spot on your screen. This probe is now programmed to go to the 1 location. Now we need to send a message to the tactical control station to tell them that we have a probe ready for them to fire. Open your messaging widget, select New Message, and select Tactical Control from the list. In this message, we'll keep it concise. Simply type in, "Probe ready for launch." The tactical team can now fire the probe for you. Raise your hand now and wait for a staff member to come make sure this probe gets launched. Pause your training until the check is done. Now that the probe is launched, let's take a look at it. Select the probe networking screen from your list on the left side of your screen. From there, you'll see the circle with 8 locations, and in location 1, it shows that our probe is there. In order to complete the network, you'd need to launch 7 more probes to fill the remaining spots. Once the network is up and running, your ability to see what's going on in an area is greatly enhanced. You'll also notice you have a process data field here too. If your probes catch something, they'll spit information here, and you'll hear this sound. That information should also be read aloud to the crew, so same process as before. Raise your hand and say, "Captain," in a loud and commanding voice. Once you're called on, read this information aloud to the crew. Let's talk now about making a non-networked probe or a defensive probe. Let's go back to the probe construction screen. For this example, let's select a defensive probe, and let's put in a self-destruct kit and targeting sensors. Once you've included this equipment, hit Prepare Probe. Now it asks us to give the probe a name. Let's name this probe Attack 1 by typing that into the field asking for the name, and then hit Load Probe. Same story. We need to send a message to Tactical Control and tell them probe ready for launch. Once you've done that, raise your hand and wait for a staff member to come make sure this probe gets launched. Pause until the check is done. Now that that probe has been launched, let's take a look at what we can do with it. You can go to the probe control screen by clicking it out of the menu on the left side of your screen. You can now see your probe, Attack 1, in the list of probes. If you click on it, you can now issue commands, which we call queries. Since we didn't include a sensors array, we can't use the queries to scan anything. But we designed this to ram and explode on an enemy's vessel anyways, so let's send those instructions to self-destruct on the enemy vessel at 1 o'clock. In the query field, type in "Move to enemy vessel at 1 o'clock and destruct at impact." It will respond after a few moments and say, "Acknowledged, en route." And it's off to do this command. Unless it's damaged or destroyed on the way, it will perform its task and detonate right on top of the enemy vessel. There are plenty of different probe combinations and plenty of ways for you to get creative in their use. Familiarize yourself with the equipment, and you could draft up new equipment for your R&D team to build for you to use this system for your advantage. Very lastly, if you, on either computer or both, select the library information screen, you can see many entries on many different topics. These topics also have categories that you are welcome to research if you wish, and have time. Remember that this should never take over your primary responsibilities. This is a great place to gather information about known alien races, technology, or governmental structure. This concludes your training. I hope you understand how important your responsibilities on this ship are. You are part of a team in charge of the roughly 2,100 lives on your ship. If there is anything you don't understand, make sure you get clarification on it now. You may now raise your hand, and a staff member will come and grab your training equipment from you. Good luck.